Hello everybody, welcome to This Week in Security. I'm your host Luca, and this week we're going to be talking about how in the UK and in Sweden, recent decisions have actually impacted negatively the user security of European citizens. First, let's start with the UK and Apple. So first, what happened? Well, yesterday, February 26th, by the time this video comes out, Apple actually lost a lawsuit with the United Kingdom over data protection and security for their users' data. Basically, the UK government and UK security administrations wanted backdoor access to Apple's users' data, as well as a way to break through Apple's end-to-end encryption. End-to-end encryption basically is the special text messages that Apple has between Apple users, the green bubble, right? I think that's or the blue bubble. And basically what it does is it masks your messages, your images, your videos, your files, whatever you're sending over, with a special way to basically hide everything from potential outside actors that intercept those messages. When you send out a message, there's a special key that is used to basically jumble up all of the content so that it's unreadable unless you have that key. And then the person who receives that text message unlocks it and reorganizes it on their iPhone, and you can actually see the contents of the message. It is a very simplified explanation, by the way. I know it's not completely correct, but it's to simplify it down. The UK wanted access specifically to the iCloud storage advanced data protection, which basically means that Apple had to give them the keys to basically open whatever data that you have had stored in the cloud. However, that sort of brings up more issues for Apple and consumers all over the world, rather than actually allow the UK to have that backdoor access. So what happened instead is Apple just removed advanced data protection in iCloud storage for users in the United Kingdom. If there is no wall, then there is no backdoor necessary for Apple to build for the UK government. And so, yeah, there's no data protection, advanced data protection for Apple users in the UK. And you may be asking, well, Luca, that sounds like an insanely extreme way of dealing with this problem. Why would Apple do that? Well, by building a backdoor, what they're basically doing is, making a huge wall in their protection that anyone else that has malicious intent, if they figure out, can get through, basically. That backdoor access gives potential hackers a way easier time to access not just UK users' data, but also American, Swedish, whatever else. As long as they're using iCloud storage with advanced data protection, if that backdoor exists, then a hacker who uses it can then learn about how the advanced data protection works and exploit the advanced data protection in other regions. John Verdi, Senior Vice President of Future of Privacy Forum, a Washington, D.C. based advocacy group for, privacy, said, and I quote, "It is impossible to provide exceptional access to data for some parties without undermining security for everyone. Either everyone is protected by strong encryption or it's weakened by everyone." And when other countries have different or stricter or just in general different rules for cybersecurity, and you have to comply with those as well, the easier solution for Apple, and the one that doesn't undermine everyone else's security, is to undermine UK citizen security. Which actually brings us to Signal and Sweden, because this is not just something that's happening in the UK, it's actually also happening in Sweden, as the Swedish government asked for encryption busting capabilities for Signal's end-to-end encryption as well. Signal is a text messaging app just like WhatsApp and all of those. And since Signal's whole business model is secure end-to-end encrypted messaging, instead of disabling end-to-end encryption in Sweden, what they're going to do is just take their app off the whole country. There will be no more Signal services within Sweden. That is obviously if Sweden actually doubles down and actually passes the law and legislation that is looking to demand companies to give them the end-to-end encryption backdoors, just like the UK asked of Apple. This all comes as a sort of response to everything that has been happening under President Donald Trump's actions with Europe, as Europe seems to be pulling away and trying to become more independent, with the recently elected German Prime Minister mentioning that Germany needs to build up its own national an European Union army instead of having to rely on Americans. And seemingly for governments as well as local European companies, they will be all moving towards keeping their security, their data, all of that within European borders and starting to rely less on American products. Just for a bit of a fact, the European Commission stats show that close to half of European enterprises rely on cloud services, a market that is usually, dominated by Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Oracle, and those types of companies. So all of them being US. And aside from President Trump's and the White House's actions internationally with Europe and all of that, there is also the fact that they removed members of the US Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board that safeguards data under the EU-US data privacy framework. So there is even more concern from our European allies that, there is a sacrifice of data security and that they can no longer rely on American data security in order to protect their best interests. This does mean a lot of European firms are going to start showing up with a lot more cybersecurity roles in the future. So if you're a cybersecurity engineer, you have something to look forward to. But joking aside, it is worth mentioning that a ton of companies using, for example, Microsoft 365, back in, 10, 20 years ago, that wasn't really that much of a thing. So now that so many companies all across the world are using it, and there's less and less of a confidence in American data security. What will that mean for international relations between not only American firms and European or just in general international firms, but also the United States as a country with, their foreign allies in other parts of the globe? It is a very interesting time to be alive and to talk about security and all of these things, to say the least. So, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this week's show. Subscribe.